As we continue technological advancements in video games and consoles and such, we're able to play our games in 1080p, 4K, 60 FPS or more. However, this means that when you go back to play the classics, a lot of them you can tell haven't really aged well. They're very slow, they're graphically they're not appealing, stuff like that. So that's why people like to remaster their games or sometimes full on remake them. It's a very rare treat that a game gets that more than once, right? Gets remastered more than once. So we're going to talk about 3 JRPGs that have done just that. Lunar's Silver Star story actually got the treatment 3 times. The game was originally released on Sega CD, got remade as Silver Star Story Complete on PS1, and then that got remade with a bunch of cut content on the Game Boy Advance as Lunar Legend, and then finally got a full, complete remake on PSP as Lunar Silver Star Harmony. The game has very interesting battle mechanics, a very emotional story, and a lovable cast of characters. The CD version holds up pretty well as it can at least, and the PS1 version was very complimentary to that, touching up on the graphics and adding some extra content. The Game Boy Advance version, however, because of its size, had to be downscaled, and although the story is roughly the same, it's told in a very different way. That and battles were simplified, being regular turn-based instead of tactical ones like the other versions. The PSP version though had the absolute most content in it, including a full intro into what happened before the story actually takes place. The game revolves around Alex, who dreams of becoming a mighty warrior known as the Dragon Master. You learn what you have to do from the White Dragon when you attempt to steal a Dragon Diamond, and eventually you learn that one of the heroes of the past is actually working against you. Unfortunately, the retro game market is insane, and the PS1 and Sega CD versions are just mad expensive. But if you can get your hands on a PSP or a Vita and grab the PSP version, I'd highly recommend it. I just wish that they gave the PSP treatment to the second one as well. Next is Final Fantasy IV. I chose FF4 because of just how many retranslations and remakes it actually got, but Final Fantasy 1 through 6 got a bunch of different versions of each game. I'm going to try to explain the releases as best I can here. The game originally came out as Final Fantasy II on the Super Nintendo because we didn't actually get Final Fantasy II in the West until much later. This version later got reworked and came to PS1 as Final Fantasy IV, and part of the Final Fantasy Chronicles collection paired with Chrono Trigger. There is a small graphical uphaul, as well as item names and dialogue being changed every so often. For example, on SNES, the king gives you what's called a bomb ring. On PS1, it's just a package. This later got reworked onto the Game Boy Advance along with Final Fantasy V and VI. Then Square Enix started to remake the game entirely. They made a version of it on the DS, which had cutscenes and 3D models and animations and voice acting and all that, and this later got ported to Steam. When the PSP came along, we got a full complete package called Final Fantasy IV: The After Years. This included a remade version of Final Fantasy IV, yet again another graphical overhaul, but this time unfortunately with no voice acting or 3D modeling. Obviously it came with the After Years, which is a sequel to Final Fantasy IV, but that's for another video. From what I could tell, the DS and Steam versions ramped up the difficulty, and that was evident from the first boss fight with the Mist Dragon. There was also Cecil's Darkness ability in the PS1 and PSP versions that would allow him to attack multiple enemies, but in the Steam and DS versions, it simply just powered him up. The story revolves around Cecil, a dark knight who was forced to steal a crystal and realizes his heart's not really as dark as his armor, as he does have a lot of remorse for the people that he had to kill in order to steal the crystal. He then sets out to defy the king who ordered him to steal the crystal and later learns of a much greater evil that's pulling the strings. The Steam version is very good and is a lot more accessible than pretty much any of the other versions, so if you're interested in starting Final Fantasy IV, you can't go wrong with that version. The next one is actually what spurred the idea for this video, Star Ocean. The game originally released in Japan for Super Famicom and never left Japan unfortunately, but it got remade as Star Ocean First Departure on PSP alongside the second one, which was Star Ocean Second Evolution. And then that whole remake got remastered with some different art and got released on PSN and Switch eShop as Star Ocean First Departure R. First Departure R's character art, as well as balancing the difficulty or lack thereof from the PSP version, are about the only differences that I've seen between the PSP version and First Departure R. On First Departure R though, you can actually switch between the FD and the R looks, which I personally really didn't like. R's art style, I thought it was really weird. It looked a little bit too different However, the jump from Super Famicom to PSP was immense. I honestly don't know how to even describe the battle system that they had in the original Star Ocean. I didn't exactly have free control over my character on screen when I wasn't attacking, like I do in FD and R. The game has different characters that you can recruit, 10 to be exact. However, you can only recruit 8 of them to fight with you, and who you recruit depends entirely upon your actions within the game. The combat is in real time, and much like the Tales RPGs, takes place on a separate screen where you can attack and use skills. I will say that the early game kinda tends to be a little button mashy, but as you use and learn abilities and grow your characters how you want them through their skills, it gets a little more exciting. The story centers around Roddick, who is a Rokian and knows nothing of outer space, but is forced to learn when a disease plagues his entire planet, and eventually his friend Dorn. So the party goes back in time to try and find the host of what caused the disease in an effort to make a cure and vaccine. If you're able to get your hands on First Departure R and you haven't played the other releases, I'd highly recommend picking this one up. If you guys enjoyed this video, I will definitely make some more of this. There have been a ton of games that have gotten the same treatment. I just kind of chose 3 random ones, especially JRPGs. We can kind of make it go to other genres and stuff, but this channel is kind of more along the lines of a JRPG discussion, so I wanted to keep it to JRPGs. If you did enjoy the video, make sure you go ahead and give it a like, because that way, you know, YouTube knows that you enjoyed the video, and it might make them want to push the video to more people, which will be really great. If you want to chat with me live, I do stream live on Twitch every Tuesday and Sunday, as well as one random day in between, so you can go ahead and follow me. Link for that will be down in the description below. And that'll be it from me, everybody. Have a wonderful day, evening, night, wherever and whenever you are, and as always, stay crazy. Oh shit! Quite the sword you have here. But as long as you telegraph your attacks like the novice you are, you'll never land a blow. Well, neither will you. Oh shit.